Artists are not always easy to work with. The line between chaos and creativity can be very thin, and some studio sessions spun completely out of control. Each story wilder than the last, all driven by the spirit of rock and roll. This is the top 10 most notorious studio sessions of all time.
Number 10. For the album London Calling, The Clash deliberately chose Guy Stevens. As band manager Bernie Rhodes later said, "We picked Guy Stevens because we wanted a nutcase to produce the band." Stevens loved music as much as The Clash, and almost as much as he loved the amphetamines and rivers of alcohol that made him an erratic, energized character. Stevens used extreme methods to unleash energy, throwing chairs and ladders when the band lost focus, pouring red wine into the piano to make it sound better, and intimidating or physically confronting band members when they underperformed. According to Paul Simonon and Mick Jones, Stevens gave the band exactly what they needed: raw energy, spontaneity, and the atmosphere of a live performance on tape.
Number 9. After the success of Transformer, Lou Reed created The Dark Berlin, a concept album about addiction and decay. The recordings were chaotic. Producer Bob Ezrin had his children cry for the song The Kids, which sparked rumors of child abuse. Some say he told them their mother had died. Others claim he locked them in a closet so that he could then record their intense and authentic cries. Reed was heavily addicted at the time. Singing sober was almost impossible. During the recordings, Ezrin himself also became hooked on heroin and eventually checked into a rehab clinic after finishing the album. The album flopped and was even used against Reed in court, where RCA claimed he made perverse records when no one kept an eye on him.
Number 8. The sessions for Nevermind the Bollocks were pure chaos. After their infamous Grundy incident, where they swore live on TV and caused national outrage,
You dirty fucker. What a fucking rotter.
the band had already been dropped by 2 record labels before putting out their debut album. The Sex Pistols were a disaster in the studio. They often turned up late, drunk, or stoned, and for producer Chris Thomas, it was like trying to control a gang of loose cannons. Meanwhile, Sid Vicious had replaced Glenn Matlock, but couldn't actually play bass. Luckily, Sid was in the hospital for much of the recording due to hepatitis, which saved the sessions from even more chaos. We tried as hard as possible not to let him anywhere near the studio, guitarist Steve Jones later admitted. Jones ended up recording almost all the bass parts himself. Sid's only contribution was on the track Bodies, but his bass part was mixed so quietly that most listeners can't even hear it.
Number 7. The atmosphere within the Beatles had already turned sour since the recordings of the White Album in 1968. But during the recording sessions of Let It Be, things worsened. Paul McCartney took most of the control, while the others felt more and more like session musicians. As Lennon put it,
We got fed up of being sidemen for Paul.
at the same time, Lennon sank deeper into heroin addiction and became more distant from the others. What made it worse was Yoko Ono's constant presence in the studio. Where partners usually stayed away, Yoko was always there, often sitting right next to Lennon during recordings. For the other band members, this felt like she was entering their creative space. It caused discomfort and irritation. As Paul McCartney put it perfectly later, it was as if we had already lost John. He was in his own world with Yoko.
Number 6. Before recording Saint Anger, Metallica's bassist Jason Newsted left the band. He was tired of the constant fighting and strict rules. His departure left Metallica as a broken trio, and the mood in the studio turned dark. Things got worse when James Hetfield went to rehab for alcohol and drug problems. Therefore, recording stopped for months. When he returned, they could only work 4 hours a day to protect his recovery. James stormed out at 5, but the others kept recording behind his back. The next day, he found out and exploded. Furious, he banned them from ever working without him again. In the end, things got so bad, they had to bring a therapist into the studio just to keep the band from falling apart.
Number 5. The recording of Exile on Main Street is one of the most legendary and chaotic chapters in Rolling Stone's history. In 1971, the band fled the UK to avoid high taxes and settled in Villa-Nelcote, Keith Richards' mansion on the French Riviera. What was meant as a creative escape soon became a swampy, decadent nightmare. Recordings took place in a poorly ventilated basement, while above ground, the villa turned into a non-stop party. Dealers, groupies, and shady characters were all over the place. Richards, heavily addicted to heroin at the time, later said, "We didn't have a schedule. We just played when we felt like it. Time didn't exist."
Number 4. The recording of Rumors felt more like a public divorce with microphones than a studio session. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had broken up, yet kept singing love songs to each other. Christine and John McVie had just divorced after 8 years, but still worked side by side. To make it worse, Mick Fleetwood faced his own marriage problems, including an affair with his wife's friend. The tension was unbearable. This led to songs like Go Your Own Way, where Buckingham took a jab at Nicks, who responded with the song Dreams. Cocaine use was so extreme that the studio had special rooms set up just for snorting between takes. During the chaos, producer Ken Kalat simply let the tape roll. As Fleetwood said, the music was therapy. We were falling apart, but somehow that made us play better.
Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.
So you'll be notified when we drop a new music industry video.
Number 3. The recording of Up the Bracket was a perfect example of romantic self-destruction and punk chaos. Led by Pete Doherty and Carl Barrett, the Libertines brought raw energy but couldn't stick to any schedule. Producer Mick Jones of The Clash had the tough job of keeping the band focused. The sessions started with good intentions, but drugs and unreliability soon took over. Doherty was often missing, too drunk or high to record, leaving Barrett to work alone. Their friendship was intense but full of jealousy and arguments, yet those clashes created the spark that made Up the Bracket so urgent. Mick Jones kept recording quickly and live, aiming for emotion over perfection. As Doherty later said, "We didn't know what we were doing half the time, but it didn't matter. Mick got it."
Number 2. The album that marked the end of the Britpop era. The studio sessions for Oasis' Be Here Now were a disaster. After Morning Glory, the band thought they were untouchable. But in late 1996, at Abbey Road and Ridge Farm Studios, the work turned into non-stop cocaine binges. Noel Gallagher later admitted, "We weren't making a record. We were taking drugs and having a laugh. Songs were buried under layers of guitars. If it didn't sound good, we'd turn it up. If it still didn't sound good, we'd add another guitar." Tensions between Liam and the others grew, but no one dared intervene. Producer Owen Morris could only let the tapes roll. Noel summed it up best. "It's the sound of a bunch of guys on coke in the studio not giving a fuck."
Number 1. The recording of The Who's Pictures of Lily in 1967 became famous because of drummer Keith Moon's crazy behavior in the studio. What began as a routine recording quickly spiraled out of control when Keith brought thunder flashes, small military smoke bombs with an ear-splitting bang, and set them off right there in the studio. This broke microphones, melted cables, and damaged the floor. The room filled with smoke, and the staff was very angry. But this was normal for Keith. Sound engineer Bob Pridden said that every time Moon recorded, at least one microphone would be broken. Keith thought smashing things was part of being a rock star. He once said, "If you're going to be a rock star, you should destroy rooms, not decorate them." Thank you for watching. We are the Boys Next Door. We talk music.
Like and subscribe for more top 10s and other music videos.